A compromise at the Capitol to end the impasse over how to give you tax relief.
This working with the Speaker on this property tax package has been very positive.
We go one-on-one with the Lieutenant Governor to dig into the deal, how he's answering critics who say renters and teachers got left out of the plan. Concern on the campaign trail about people from China crossing our southern border. We put the numbers in context. He's one of the most vocal advocates at the state capitol for gun legislation. Now he's aiming for higher office.
We have the resources to do great big things. We need to have serious people in Washington that are willing to talk about those things.
Why he believes his policies could put him on a path to beat Ted Cruz in the race for U.S. Senate.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Progress at the Capitol after a months-long stalemate that led to 2 special sessions. Lawmakers reached a deal on property tax relief. It's a record $18 billion plan. Voters will have to approve a constitutional amendment to put the plan in place. It includes a measure to raise the homestead exemption to $100,000, up from the current $40,000 exemption. The plan also includes $12 billion to lower school property tax rates by having the state pay part of what school districts normally collect from homeowners and businesses. The compromise plan would cut franchise taxes for small businesses, and non-homestead properties worth $5 million or less would get a break on appraised values under a 3-year pilot program. The deal has broad support, but it comes after the state started the year with a $33 billion budget surplus. That had some lawmakers raising concerns about whether this plan will be sustainable when it comes to funding schools in times of tougher economic conditions.
I vote for this in hopes that the state continues, even after this one-time surplus, to pay its fair share with regard to public education, so that we don't go back to a past where we allowed the local property taxes to increase so that we could fail to meet our obligation at the state level.
Teacher pay raises were left out of the compromise plan, but Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says teachers could still see a pay bump later this year. Capitol correspondent Ryan Chandler spoke with the Lieutenant Governor to get a deeper look inside the deal.
Thank you for joining me. After months of anticipation, we now have what you've called the biggest tax cut in world history, $18 billion for Texas homeowners. In doing so, you've accomplished one of your long-term goals, the $100,000 homestead exemption, and much more. But of course, this will have to come to the voters for some approval on some of the biggest items in this package. What do the voters need to know before they make that decision, Governor?
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me back. So the $100,000 homestead exemption, which the Senate believed in since early March, all 31 senators have voted for it multiple times, and we'll pass it again over to the House. The voters will go to the polls in November, and they'll have a chance to vote on this amendment. Along with in this amendment will be other things. But the last time that voters had a chance, Ryan, back in 21, to vote to increase the homestead exemption from 25 to 40,000, it passed with 85% of support. So I think this is even bigger this time because we're taking it up from 40,000 to 100,000. No one really has ever done an $18 billion package in the history of the world that I know for property taxes, and surely in this country. And there were lots of ideas, and it took a while to come up with the right package. And so we got to where we needed to get. And when the voters vote this October, or rather this November, on the constitutional amendment, it will take effect this year.
Between the appraisal caps, the homestead exemption, the school district tax rate cuts, it seems universally accepted that this package is a win for homeowners, for business owners, for second homeowners, as well as commercial and rental property owners.
Yes.
Seems like the losers in this deal may be renters and teachers, Governor. Is there any relief coming to them?
So great questions, Ryan. So first of all, let me say to the folks watching that $100,000 homestead exemption gives them a $1,200 to $1,450 on average tax savings every year. That's about $100 or more a month tax-free back to them that they don't have to pay in taxes. And that's a great transfer of conservative thinking in the Texas Senate and the House. And I appreciate Dade Phelan working with me in the last week almost every day and night working on these issues together. Now, to your question on about renters, there's no way that we can. The Constitution prohibits us from sending money directly to people. So renters don't own the property. So none of this helps them directly. However, the landlords who own these apartments, Ryan, big apartments all over the state, they're getting a tax break. The compression will cut their school taxes up to maybe around 23%. That's significant for them. I believe that many will pass it on through just the competitive market. And then in the second area, you said renters and teachers. We did put in a teacher pay raise, $6,000 for rural teachers in our original bill 2 weeks ago. The House decided at this time that they wanted to stick on property taxes, so they've decided to take it out. But I know that we're coming back in October, or I believe that we are, to discuss school choice and school funding. And we have $5 billion. And this is important, Ryan. I actually haven't said this to anyone. I hadn't thought of it with so much going on. But we already have $5 billion set aside in the budget. And part of that is for teacher pay raises. So I believe we'll get to them in October when we address the other education issues.
Would you like to see a revival of the proposal the Senate already passed for the $2,000 to $6,000 raises or something similar? Is that the idea?
Yeah, Ryan, back in 2019, we put in the Senate, we put $2 billion we set aside for teacher pay raises. We were looking to increase teachers across the board about $5,000. We gave the school districts the opportunity to design their own system. Do they want to reward incentive? Do they want to spend it across the board? We have special programs to try to incentivize teachers to get more pay. My wife was a longtime teacher. My daughter-in-law was a teacher. My mother-in-law was a teacher. I actually did my own student teaching. I think teaching is a very noble profession, and they ought to be paid like a profession and not just a job. And so we've always been supporting teacher pay. It's higher than it's ever been, but we need to continue to do it. And I think we do need to, whatever we do, the rural teachers need to get an extra bump because they're just behind, just so they can catch up. And so whatever the House looks, when we get there, this working with the Speaker on this property tax package has been very positive, and I think we'll work together on that, and hopefully they can pass a school choice bill, and it'll be a great package just like this property tax package is.
With that $12 billion for school districts, your message to them is you can rely on the state of Texas to fulfill that in perpetuity.
Yeah, well, on the compression, that's that part, and I've said this, over and over in the last couple of months. The compression is not a guarantee like the homestead exemption, because if our sales tax decline in 1 year, you could always have an offset in any, if you have, as I said 2 years ago or 4 years ago, if you have a black swan event that we never predict, like we had COVID. I believe what we've done now, we can afford to continue to do. And by the way, the constitutional amendment on the homestead exemption, that's required. In other words, you can't back off from that. Once the people vote for that, that's in the Constitution. We always will have to find the money for that. So some things are ongoing, like a teacher pay raise or a property tax cut. Other things are one-time things, and then we saved a lot. So I think we've approached this, the House and Senate together. I think we've approached this, our budget writers, which we're heavily involved in our office, of course, and I am. I think we've done a good job on this, but you can always have a little variable. Really good year, maybe a down year, but we'll keep moving forward.
Well, Lieutenant Governor
Thanks,
Patrick,
Ryan.
these are big issues for an unprecedented time. We appreciate you joining us to walk us through it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, great questions, Ryan. I hope the folks heard the answers to some of these questions that other people hadn't asked me, and I hope they have a good insight of where we are and where we're going. Thank you.
These are the questions that people around the state and our viewers especially have been having, so I appreciate your answering them. Thank you, Governor.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There is more to our interview with the Lieutenant Governor, including his take on the long-term impact of this historic property tax plan. You can see our complete interview online now. Just look for the link in this week's State of Texas story. That's in the Texas Politics section of our website. Two longtime lawmakers announced plans to leave the House, how their decision could affect the balance of power at the state capitol. And a Texas senator sets his sights on a U.S. Senate seat. We sit down with Roland Gutierrez, why he says he's taking on a tough campaign to represent you in Washington.